Holocaust Survivor, A Life of Remembering. For the Holocaust, Jews were regular people, children, and families.
My father had a business, and he used to go into the business to work and so on. And of course, after I was old enough, I started to go to school. Things were pretty normal. What was normal in Czechoslovakia in the 1930s.
Even after Hitler had begun his rampage, people still lived normal lives without fear of what would happen in the future.
I was still going to school just like before, except now instead of going to a school that only taught in Slovakian, they also taught in Hungarian. So my parents decided that I should go to the Hungarian part of the school, and that's where I went. And life went on normal for a child, where you go to school in the morning, you spend most of the day at school, you come home, you have lunch, and then later on in the afternoon you go out and you play ball. After you finish ball playing and so on, by that time my parents came home from the business, and meanwhile my grandma was with the boys, because there were three of us. She took care of us, especially after we came home from school and we had to have lunch. And then she started to cook, and then of course when my mom came home from the business, so I went to regular school. And of course the big difference was that I think it was in 1943 my father's they took away his business and so on. However, he was a tailor prior to the time he married my mom. He just started to work as a tailor, so he was earning a living, and our lifestyle hasn't really changed. It was in the early spring, the Nazis were able to cross the mountains and came into Hungary, and of course they occupied Hungary at that time. One of the first things after they occupied Hungary was that there was an edict that every Jewish person had to wear a yellow star. Because after the edict came out, my mom went to a store and bought some yellow material and made up the stars, and she sewn the stars on our clothing, let it be our coats or a jacket. At the same time as that edict came out, they also told us, look here, so most of the minorities, and that includes the Jewish people in the town, will have to be relocated. They told everyone to make sure that they pack a bag, each person to take along with all the essential things that we will need if we have to go live someplace else. So, my mom and my dad got the bags ready and so on, and of course the boys ended up getting back, each one ended up getting their own backpacks. And we were already waiting. Came in and they rounded up all the Jewish people in the town. And now we're going to be transported to your final destination. They took us to the train station. Of course, we came to the train station. They had about a dozen of these cattle cars, and they were, as we were walking on the platform, the whole convoy stopped momentarily till they counted over 100 people. And they said, okay, so you go into this cattle car, and then the rest of the convoy kept moving forward, and we counted over about 100 people for each cattle car. As they counted them all, was we on our own, we had to get into the cattle car. However, the cattle cars were kind of high, and because there were no steps going into the cattle car, so when I tried to get into the cattle car, it was a little rough because my backpack on my back, I couldn't quite make it, so someone came behind me and grabbed me and they shoved me into the cattle car. And before you know it, our whole cattle car was filled up. Among the cattle cars, all the cattle cars were filled up. They went ahead and they locked the doors, and of course we were on our way.
What happened to about 3.5 million Jews as soon as they reached the camp?
They were taken down, there were some steps that were taken down in the open yard, and told the people that they have to get undressed, and because they smelled bad, properly lice on their clothing, and they would have to take a shower. that was not a real shower, but it was a gas chamber. And of course, the people that went in with that group and so on, everyone was killed.
Why did Moskovic survive after the deaths of his family members?
The main reason was, and of course, what happened was, like I told you, we were transferred over to the boys' barrack, okay? And they made sure, the underground made sure that we have some extra food because they wanted the boys to survive immediately afterwards, the camp and so on, because the pain was so deep, people could not talk about it. So it took quite a few years before you got yourself established in this country, were able to work, and in the beginning they even felt that most of the survivors wouldn't even be able to go and work.
How did he feel once he started to talk about his experience?
The dreams I used to have, the bad dreams I used to have and so on, all of a sudden they started to disappear. Instead of having dreams about, seeing my parents or my brothers and so on, each night, slowly, all of a sudden, they started to disappear.
What does a Holocaust survivor expect from people who listen to his or her story?
Remember of what we went through, and we hope that by remembering it and so on, you will also teach other people.
How does a Holocaust survivor feel about the genocides occurring around the world?
We would say, well, where's the rest of the world? Why aren't they speaking up? Nobody cares, as long as it's not happened to us. We come to Port St. Lucie, everything is normal. It's normal here, but it's not normal there. Now, I think that somewhere along the way this can reverse, and what is happening in Iraq or in the Sudan may happen in this country. It can happen. It can happen. The Holocaust has ended. Did it stop killing? No, it did not stop killing.
How can we prevent another Holocaust from occurring?
Any kind of issue that happens in your neighborhood, in your country, or around the world, you have to get involved and you have to speak up. Speak up by means speaking up. You have to speak up against it.
What is the significance of the Holocaust survivors' resolution to speak for the dead and inform the next generation?
Our only hope in this world, and my hope, is that by doing this, I can reach enough people, and that then they can go out and speak about this to other people, like what you're doing, having some special project, and so on, so other people will listen somewhere along the way, and then they will continue this work. And if we can accomplish that, perhaps someday we may have peace in this world.